I start with the Benny Johnson. Benny, I wanted you on here from the other day, and your spirited, and I think most spirited defense we had of Bobby Kennedy came from you. But then the story that is that you have been following for a while, but just is now getting the attention of mainstream media since it's been forced. You had Harmeet Dillon on today. Let's just do a reset. What did we talk about? What happened? Where did it happen? How did it happen? And why, as the mainstream media, not mention one word of this, sir?
Well, yes, a lot to unpack, Steve. Always an honor to be on. So a young woman who fled war-torn Ukraine, that is an active war zone with a lot of bad things happening and a lot of people dying, a lot of terrible stuff happening in Ukraine, we can all agree, decided to seek refuge in the greatest country on earth, here, America. And she decided to locate to a municipality, Charlotte, North Carolina, and ride a bus home after her hourly job at a pizza place. But little did she realize that in this country, there is something arguably as or more deadly than the war zone that she fled, Steve, which is restorative justice and woke judicial policies, which allows for monsters and animals to roam among us, approximately 1% of the population, to terrorize 99% of the population, and she was stabbed through her throat. We don't get any type of bumper stickers for her. She couldn't say, "I can't breathe," because she had a knife in her throat. And now we've just learned that DeMarcus Brown Jr., the murderer, had 14 prior arrests and was mumbling to himself on that bus, "I got the white girl," confirming that this was in fact a racial hate crime. And so you need to step back and ask the question, how does this happen? How do you get out of jail 14 different times? Now, we've named and shamed some of the judges that have allowed for this to happen, and obviously the policies that look at the criminal as the victim. And that's, of course, a absolute evil. But I want to go a level further here, Steve, if you'll just allow me, if I can just have a minute. Because I want to talk about something that we've looked through, some data that we've looked through on my show that I think is really alarming and should shock the soul and the consciences of Americans. 1 in every 22 black men will commit murder in their lifetime here in America. Black men are 9 times more likely to commit violent crime. They make up 6% of the population, but 52% of the murders are committed by black men. So what the hell is going on there? What is happening here in our nation? There has to be some type of correlation or causality. Steve, we have to figure this thing out. What is it? And we've looked, and we think we found something. 70% of all black children are born into fatherless homes. There are 6 million black children living today in America without fathers. Now, we know that fatherlessness leads to twice the probability that the child is raised in poverty, half the chances of that child graduating college, and 3 times more likely for that child to become a criminal and incarcerated. 70% of juvenile delinquents that are in state facilities are from fatherless homes. Of course, fatherlessness in the black community especially skyrocketed after the Great Society programs of the 1960s and 70s that incentivized fatherlessness in communities, especially of color. And so here is the question that lies before America. Are we going to continue to incentivize the murder, the terrorism of our own people? Or are we going to stop these insane policies? Fatherlessness is killing, literally and figuratively, America, Steve.
Benny, isn't also when you said 70% of the murders, if you look at the violent crimes, it's all basically perpetrated against the African American and some of the Hispanic community, right? I mean, there is some black on white crime, but principally you've got these cities, and I think this is what President Trump is saying, and why Chicago's next, and Ben Bergquam is going to join us. Of course, the Supreme Court had a great ruling today on ICE about roving around. These policies have really been used to terrorize the minority community, have they not?
Yeah. Oh, if you say Black Lives Matter, if you have that bumper sticker or if you have that flag and that slogan, by the way, all of the data that I just gave you is directly from the FBI. All of the data is directly from accredited studies and from our own federal crime and law enforcement data. It has been backed, and it is there in black and white. And to your point about black and white, the vast majority of these crimes are committed against black populations or populations of color. That's what the statistics bear out. So if you believe that Black Lives Matter, the number one thing that you would be banging your fist on the table for and yelling about in the streets through your megaphone till your voice cracked would be to lock up and incarcerate the 1% of our population, diminishingly small numbers of the population, that commit 90% of the crimes. That's how you solve crime. You can get to the spiritual realm and also talk about fatherlessness and clearly some very bad socio and economic conditions that cause this, much of it precipitated by our federal government. But Steve, it's not like all darkness. There are examples of this. Washington, D.C., where you're broadcasting right now, locked up 1,700 people and saw a 94% reduction in crime. Exactly what I'm talking about here. There's 600,000 people live in Washington, D.C. You're one of them. The War Room broadcasts from there regularly. And have you seen it safer in Washington since the National Guard moved in?
Oh, yeah. Not only safer. I was telling people I went to this thing in Georgetown on Friday night with anti-Trump people. And to a person, they said the city's safer, Georgetown's safer. You can get out and walk around at night. I mean, it's shocking. And these are all, never Trumpers that would never publicly give the president a hat tip, but they all admit the city is demonstrably safer, sir.
El Salvador is a wonderful example of this. El Salvador was the single most dangerous country in the Western Hemisphere. Now it is the safest country because they simply locked up their career criminals. Approximately 1% of their population, call it whatever you want, demonic possession, the gang pipeline that encourages this. But when you get rid of the contagion vector of career criminals, they don't spawn more career criminals. Now, El Salvador solved this, and at light neck-snapping speed, now it has become one of the single safest countries on earth. And there is a roadmap here. President Trump followed it in our nation's capital, and I hope that it happens throughout America's cities. But you've got to be able to look the problem dead in the face. You have to be meaner than evil in order to take on something like this. And President Trump says that these horrible acts need to be met with horrible justice. And so I really do indeed hope that there are some major prohibitions and some major penalties that are doled out to these killers and murderers. And again, as you stated, the single best thing you could want for the black community in this country is for these murderers to be locked up for good.